If you found this podcast, chances are you're a high achiever and you're successful. But now you're stuck and stressed, and you realize that everything you've created hasn't given you the fulfillment and the joy you thought it would. This is where we discuss the keys of high performance mindset and stepping into the next best version of yourself. Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Positive Persistence Podcast, where we bring you stories to inspire you and strategies to help you tap into your potential and become your best self. Today, we are joined by Leigh Devine, who is the founder and therapist at Lotus of Life Counseling, which is in Westfield, Indiana. With over 23 years of experience, Leigh has dedicated her career to helping individuals across all age groups, from children and teens to adults and the elderly. And the work has taken place in a variety of settings, including hospitals, schools, in-home services, community-based programs, and with the DCS, which is the Department of Child Services. She's also worked in residential facilities for adolescents, hospice, and palliative care and outpatient clinics. Leigh's commitment to the field of social work is grounded in the significance of human relationships, the promotion of self-determination, and a deep respect for the dignity and worth of every individual. Leigh Devine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just for a little context for our listeners and viewers, I had the opportunity to meet Leigh a couple of weeks ago when I was speaking at Sheridan High School, middle school. And we connected there briefly, and then we actually hopped on a phone call last week, and we started to have a great conversation. And I thought it was really pertinent to continue that conversation on the show because I know that mental health is in the headlines a lot these days, and it's a conversation that is out there that America is having. And being that we met in that sphere of high school, middle school, adolescence, I thought it would be interesting to have that conversation about mental health with that particular age group. And I'm interested to get into this conversation, not only for the wisdom that you can impart on all of us, but also my wife and I, we have 5 boys, 4 of which are in the age group of 12 and 17. So we're like right in it. And there's a lot going on here. So I know there's a lot to unpack, but I want to kind of dig in. And before I go any further, I also want to mention that in the last 5 years, Leigh has actually grown her practice, Lotus of Life Counseling, into 4 different locations and has 14 different providers working with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So yay for the small business owners.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, Leigh, let's dive in. Okay. So with your experience in schools and foster care, healthcare, and community-based services, what patterns of adversity, we'll start there. What patterns of adversity do you see that teens most commonly face today?
Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing that comes to my mind is teenagers want to fit in developmentally. There's something very natural and normal going on in those teen years.
Yeah.
Being accepted is a huge piece of it. You know, the second thing that comes to mind is like, who am I? Right? They're figuring out their identity. And there's lots of different ways that adolescents are navigating that. They may not even realize they're doing that, but they're doing that. Mm-hmm. They're developing their sense of self.
And I feel that that is such an interesting time in life because, as you said, you're trying to fit in, but you're also trying to be an individual.
Yes.
Right? Like you're trying to put your stamp on society, Earth, the planet, your life. Like, this is who I am. But at the same time, I need to be really careful so I'm not judged, so I can fit in. Like, how can parents or communities help that individual, I guess, become themselves, but safely, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And there's certainly tangible ways to do that. You can't praise a kid enough. You can never overpraise or overvalidate. You know, that's a hot word in the mental health world and the helping industry, you know, when feelings are involved, validating. That is huge. It's powerful. It's why I do what I do, to be quite honest. As a teenager, being validated, even though I wasn't making great choices, even though, I was kind of headed down a wild path, being validated changed the course for me. It builds trust. So that's one of the biggest things I can speak from personally and professionally is hear those kids, validate their experience. It is not about whether you agree with them or not. That is not what it's about. Having them be heard and acknowledge their experience goes a really long way. From there, you can build the trust. And when you have a trusting relationship with an adolescent, the sky's the limit for both of you. For adults and teenagers, they learn so much, and we can learn so much from them as they're growing. I'm also raising 3 boys. So, I'm right there with you, Ian.
Right. Why do you feel, or why is it that validation is so important? Obviously for all of us, even as adults, but especially when we are in our teenage years and, well, God, I mean, like remembering back, like all the things that were happening in terms of like, like we already talked about coming into our own and, Mother Nature playing the cruel trick of hitting us with this potent concoction of hormones and, all the chemicals that are raging in our body at that point in time.
Sure.
Why is it so important for us to be validated, I guess, as humans in general, other than what you've already spoken to in terms of building a relationship of trust?
Yeah. Well, there's something really amazing that happens when a young person is validated, and it's not about, am I doing this for someone else? Am I doing this for an A on a paper? If they're not invested in that A, why are they doing the A? So then they're seeking the validation of maybe a parent.
Yeah.
When they own their experience, when a kid feels validated about anything, the choice of sport or the choice of friend group, it helps them feel confident and secure in their choices. What better thing to have as an individual is a sense of self-determination and feeling empowered and capable, right?
Yeah.
So don't just be a people pleaser. Don't just get that A. Don't just be a high achieving student because mom and dad like it. It's about your own ownership of that experience and accountability. And so being validated, I feel like, is kind of the crutch of that. If I feel strongly about maybe a hobby or the way that I feel, right? Because the way that we feel does matter. Society can say our feelings don't matter. They do matter, because if we try to dismiss our own feelings, if other people say, don't feel like that, it starts this pattern of questioning ourselves. And the more we question ourselves, the less confidence we have, the less drive we have to pursue our dreams. And validating someone, I think, is right where that starts. And allowing them to have kind of this boundary around, like, my choices, my feelings are valid, whether or not they might change too. I think that's the thing. Kind of allowing that validation also allows that teenager to have the ability to change their own mind along the way. The example that comes to mind to me is like the teenager that thinks they're this forever, right? No, they're not. People change. Teenagers change. I thought I would believe and feel the same way I did when I was 16 forever. Not true. So what's the harm in, like, yes, you feel that way, it must be accurate,
Yeah. How do we, as parents, I guess, from both ends of the spectrum, you're from the adolescent or the kid's point of view and the parent's point of view, the kid, they want space, especially as you get later on into your teenage years, right? They want space to figure things out. They want to do their thing. But at the same time, they don't want to step too far out on that branch because they still want mom and dad's protection in certain areas of their life, whether it be, doing their laundry or making their food or, protecting them in uncomfortable situations. So as parents, as you're saying, as our kids are changing, as they're growing, as we should be giving them the space to kind of feel out their emotions and who they are and who they're becoming. But at the same time, we still want to guide them in the right direction. Where's that buffer, that I guess the golden zone in the middle there for us to kind of be able to do both? Like, and are there tools around doing that?
Yeah. I think there are tools, right? Like basic structure. Kids need boundaries, teens need boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not adults need boundaries. It's not a free for all. It's not you just go figure it out. We're not going to guide you, but it's, okay, let's use laundry. That's a real domestic, regular, independent thing, that teenagers do. And so maybe it's, what day do you want to do it? How much time do you want to do it? Like helping them think through what the task that they're trying to do actually is. How will you know when it's too late? How will you know if you didn't do your laundry the way that maybe you would feel proud of? Well, maybe I stink. Maybe it sits in the dryer too long and it's musty, right? So helping them kind of go into the task or go into the activity that you're talking about and have them start to think through some of the consequences maybe and the positive outcomes. How are your peers going to respond if you show up in filthy clothes?
Wrinkly clothes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe they don't care about that. Okay. So having some boundaries, absolutely guiding them. When we have teenagers and they start to drive, maybe there's limits to that, right? Maybe it's okay. You're only going to drive within 5 miles for a few weeks. You're developing trust and honesty in there too, but you're also allowing them the freedom to drive a car. And there's a lot of responsibility with that.
Yeah.
And then you build trust. Parents also have the opportunity to deal with their own anxiety that comes up when kids drive away in their car. I don't know if I'm answering your question. So I feel like boundaries are really important because yes, we want to guide them, but I also believe strongly in we don't just want compliance. Compliance, it can be harmful later in life. If some kids need a little consequence here and there to learn a lesson. Other kids don't. They can just follow the rules. And I think you really knowing your kid, like how do they learn? Do they learn from discipline and punishment and consequences? Or do they learn from learning the hard way? And I think that's really hard for a parent.
Wow. Yeah. I think that what you're talking about, you as a parent, I'm just thinking about me personally, we really have to evolve as parents. Our thought process has to evolve. Listening to you talk, I'm thinking, I have 2 kids from my first marriage. So clearly that means I'm divorced. And during that, when they were growing up, I was very structured with them. And like we're going to do laundry on Thursday. So make sure that your laundry is where it needs to be so it can get cleaned. And when it's done, you need to put it away. And right. So, and there was always that follow up of like, did you do your chores? Right. Sure. And then it was, well, I'm like always on their back for doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And I think to myself, well, I don't understand why they are so upset. If they would just do what I asked them to do when I asked them to do it, it wouldn't be a problem. And this is the way that I was raised. Right. So, and what I mean by that as being evolved is like, we can't just go by that anymore. Like, well, this is how my parents did it. This is how I was raised, because I needed to realize in those moments that my kids are not me. Right? I needed to realize that they are their own people. And what my dad mainly, how he ruled the roost in making me very compliant. And how did that work out for me and my dad? Our relationship was not good. But I fell into that same trap of parenting for some reason, even though I told myself I wasn't going to. But now I have I will call it a second chance. So I have 4 stepsons, and I'm forced to realize that they are all different people, and they don't all respond to do this because I said so, because that's how I was raised. Right. And that we need to realize that they are going to respond differently. Like you said, some of our boys do respond like, if this doesn't get done, your phone is mine. Right. That consequence. Right. Or others, you just got to ask once and they just go do it and get it done. But I think that for a lot of us, as parents, I think that we do have to, I guess, detach ourselves from the way we were raised, good or bad, and
Mm-hmm.
create a new, I guess, pattern of emotions and relationships to how our kids are acting or reacting to certain situations. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all in that. We all come with a story. We all come with a past. We all come with experiences of being led by parents. And I really believe everybody's doing probably the best they can
Hmm.
with what they're working with, right? Aside from things like abuse and neglect that are very deliberate and sure. But yeah, I think that's part of the fun thing about parenting is that you have two people that you may know you love each other and you have the same values and things like that, but then you're raising children that are not either one of you. They're
Hmm.
a they're a perfect blend of both of those adults. And you're right, we have to evolve because it also can't only be one parent's way, right? Like the way your dad led was
Yeah.
not the right way, maybe to the way your wife wants to, right? So it really does,
Hmm.
the adults have to evolve in the process of trying to help those kids have good decision making skills and what is that currency, right? I think you mentioned like taking the phone away. We've got kids where, you know what, that's enough to have that kid toe the line and do what you want him to do.
Yeah.
I've got another son that's not how he learned. And it took us years as parents, even with like my clinical experience and my, my professional experience. When it's your own kid, it's different, right?
Yeah.
So having to be creative, like, okay, taking the phone away is not going to teach the lesson. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that as parents, we got to go back to. What are we trying to teach? Do we want our children just to have compliance and obedience? Or are we trying to teach them to have an investment in why we make the choices we make?
Wow, Leah. Okay. So that right there is huge, and I'm going to ask just personally for some, I guess, some counseling right now, right here. So when we're in the moment, and I will
Mm,
say I am not good at this.
sure.
When we're in the moment, how do we like deregulate ourselves or regulate our nervous system
Mm-hmm.
and take whatever just happened that has got us PO'd
Mm-hmm.
and not just be punitive and disciplinary about what
Yeah.
just happened and dial it back and say, okay, let's use this as a teaching moment and let's teach a lesson here. It's not just about
Mhm.
the punishment, but it's about what do I want them to learn? Like,
Yeah.
if like what
Like
can
in
we
that
do as
moment.
parents to like, yes, in that moment to
Yeah.
like, woosah or whatever you got to do to just dial it in for a second and it's okay, what's the best action to take here instead of just the flip and fly off the handle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, full disclosure, I've been there lots of times. Okay. I'm the one that is like highly activated, right? Like I
Mhm.
like to use the word activated because there is an activation of that nervous system and everything's firing off. And I think a lot of us are trying to establish control in that moment, right?
Mhm.
Even though it might be from a place of love or wanting to teach a lesson at the root of it, in that moment, it's like, oh, I'm losing it. I'm,
Yeah.
you know? So, first thing is walk away. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody feels shame for walking away. Nobody has regret for just taking a break. Many lessons can be taught 5 or 10 minutes later if
Mhm.
everyone can just, because more than likely, if mom or dad is getting ramped up and is PO'd, as you say, it
Mhm.
shows, right? Like I wear it on my, I mean, there's no hiding the way that I feel.
Yeah.
So more than likely, the child is also having their own nervous system response because there's like a threat that happens there, not because they're in
Mhm.
danger, but
Mhm.
there is something going on for them too. There's a defensiveness that comes up, or,
Yeah.
do I need to lie? Or, right? They're trying to figure out what to do in that moment. So,
Right.
first thing is, let's take a break because they're also going to learn in that moment or can learn in that moment. Hey, when dad's activated, when mom is ramped up, instead of mom spewing off or instead of mom just dropping that hammer and giving more consequences, mom took a break to take care of herself first so that she could return and listen to me
Mm.
and we could talk through it. So they learn, I mean, we're the models, right? So it's a lot
Right.
of pressure. We got to like do it well in the moment, but then also hope that our kids pick up some of those skills. So
Yeah.
walk away. Sometimes with little kids or younger kids, there's like a thing we call co-regulating, and we'll do that right with them. Hey, let's lay on our backs and breathe. Let's just breathe out stress, breathe in peace, and just
Hmm.
focus on our breath. We're all designed with a really accessible, free thing called our breath. And not everything can be solved with that, but it's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
And so just breathing, getting our breath under control and regulated and calm and kind of visualizing, like in that moment, the air going in and stress going out, or whatever language people want to use. Some people are more activated if they start paying attention to what is happening in their body when their nervous system is activated. I say that's a tool. Those are messages. Those are messages like, hey, something's going on. I need to take care of something. And then we get into all the like grounding techniques and all those catchy for, like people will walk barefoot in grass, and really what all of those things are doing, which is very regular in the mental health world, teaching that, demonstrating it, modeling it, doing it in session with teens. What that's all meant to do is to help our body regulate so that then our logical brain can come back and start working and go back to like lesson. My kid lied on the test. He didn't do well. We're going to get back to that. But if I respond out of my body freaking out and my mind freaking out, we don't get the best outcome there,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yes,
So
absolutely.
having our bodies and having tools to regulate our body and get back to like a calm state or just a better state even works wonders. So, but that really takes an awareness on parents too, on parents' part, right?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I was about to say, I mean, for that to happen, we have to be aware of our emotions and our
Yeah.
body, and not only of them, but how they affect the people
Mm-hmm.
around us. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so interesting what you said, going back to the lying, right? And I've never thought about it like this until you said this, is that can be a protection mechanism for our kids. Like, for instance, last night we were carving pumpkins, and my wife and I left to go run an errand, and we had our boys were doing their thing, and they're scooping out all the guts and everything. We get back, and for some reason there's pumpkin guts in the drain in the bathroom next to the living room where they were doing this, and we're like, who put pumpkin guts in the drain? Of course, nobody. Nobody,
Nobody did it.
right? But I know myself, and if I were to have found out which of our boys did that, I would be, why did you lie? Like, why didn't you say you
Mm-hmm.
did it? Like, now I found out that you lied, and I'm more upset about the fact that you lied. But it's simply in that moment, they're going to lie because they're protecting themselves from getting in trouble. They're protecting themselves from that situation, that uncomfortable situation of, oh crap, now dad's going to be pissed at me.
Yeah. And that
And
acceptance piece, right? Dad's not going to
right,
accept. Dad's not going to like that.
right.
Yeah.
God, that makes so much sense. Oh man, that's like a
Mm-hmm.
huge light bulb. And something I'm gonna definitely have to remember the next time, and it's gonna happen again, that, we catch our boys in doing something dishonest or a lie, and like, maybe it's because they're actually just protecting themselves. They messed up, they know they messed up, but now they're gonna lie to,
Mm-hmm.
not just to make us mad, but to protect themselves.
There is a huge
Yeah.
protection piece of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we could get real existential about why people lie and, why we do what we do and what motivates people to tell the truth. But, when you're raising teenagers, knowing that they can tell you the truth and that you can handle it, that goes a long way,
Yeah.
to think that you're never going to be disappointed or sad or embarrassed, or to think that you're not going to have your own feelings about things that your kids do,
Hmm.
and to start to wonder, like, is that a reflection of me? And that would be that would be unnatural. Like that will happen too. But I think the more that young people, whether it's their parent or another trusted adult, that they can be honest and know that that other person can still hold space for them and can handle the truth. You know what I mean? That can go a really long way. It may not mean they're going to do it every time, but that's something we say in our house a lot. Like just, we want the truth, you know, when we kind of confront behavior that we think might be going on, or, you know, even in the most calm state, like, hey, I just need you to be honest about this. There's still a time when my kid's going to lie to me and I got a feeling like, I think he's lying to me.
Yeah.
But I got to be able to handle that well,
Mm-hmm.
so that the next opportunity, maybe he feels like he can be truthful. We don't condone lying, right? We don't want to say that that's okay, but I think understanding why we do it helps. Some of that I think goes back to shame. Kids don't want to feel shame. Kids don't want to feel judged or unloved or unaccepted. And that's all at risk when you're being found out about something, whether it's something small like laundry or, you know, seeds in the sink or all the other things that teenagers get into.
It's time to ask yourself, when was the last time you prioritized you? Did you know that research shows that nearly 85% of high performers struggle to maintain a performance mindset while juggling the demands of work and personal life? Those who actively prioritize their performance mindset and personal growth are 30% more likely to achieve their goals in business and life. If you're feeling crippling stress and anxiety, or if you're feeling guilty when you take a moment for yourself, or if you're stuck in the grind and feeling burnt out, you're not alone. Many of us yearn for more, but struggle with the fear of being judged or feeling selfish. And you want to step into the next best version of yourself. That's why I created the Rinse Method, which got me from paraplegic to marathon runner. Backed by science-based proven strategies and now customized for high performers like you. If you're stuck and stressed and want clear steps that you can implement today to move forward, make sure you visit thepositivepersistence.com to download our free Rinse PDF.
Okay, I want to ask you a broad question here, if I may.
Sure.
Going back to mental health and you know, I guess just putting it out there, like, why is teen mental health so crucial during adolescence? And if there are any, what are some early signs that parents should be privy to or paying attention to, I guess, pick up on if their teen is starting to veer off the path or having some issues? I don't know. I don't know how to phrase that, but I think you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like warning signs that the mental health may not be in a great place or is starting to go, like, from a mental health standpoint. Yeah. Good question. Mm-hmm. I think one of the first things that comes to my mind is, are they isolating? Are they withdrawing? Are they not just withdrawing from the family? Because it is pretty normal and typical for kids to want to go to their room by themselves.
Yeah.
But are they withdrawing socially if they've had an active social life and they start to isolate? Are they having less and less interaction with people outside of the home? Mm-hmm. Are there changes in eating? That's a big one. Girls, whole nother thing there, I think. The added pressure socially there. Are there changes in eating? Are there changes in hygiene? That's a big one. If you have a kid that's pretty well groomed and takes his, appearance, to be really important and wants to smell good and feel good about himself, and that's how he does that through regular bathing, and then all of a sudden stops, that's a sign. Things like hygiene. I think there's some thought that, like, when they change the way they dress drastically, it's this big mental health thing. It can be. Some of that is also, I think, kids trying to figure out their identity.
Yeah.
And figure out what helps them feel good about themselves, right? Because they're all after healthy self-esteem. Everybody at that age is searching for, how do I get my sense of worth and value, right, and purpose and esteem, and what am I good at and who's going to notice? So sometimes changing clothes. I think kids at higher risk, from my experience, would be the ones that don't have a connection. They're not in sports. They're not in band. They're not connected to a a club or a group or a faith-based community, the kids that are alone a lot, whether that's by choice, some kids like to be alone. I feel like those are the kids that are higher risk. Those are the kids we see more often in a therapeutic setting because there's such a limited support system.
And when you say connection, are you speaking of social connection?
Yeah. Or, connection with just, their peers, clubs, groups, anything. Yeah. Someplace where they are getting interaction and support and other adult influence, I think, is huge.
Okay. The reason I ask that is just because obviously the landscape of being a teenager has changed so much. And, when I was a teenager, what you just said would have meant social interaction with other humans face to face or, on the phone. But now it is virtual and
yeah.
you could be virtually connecting with people, but you're not actually being social with them in the way that we knew social meeting when we were kids.
You're right. I mean, you bring up a really important thing. Even as therapists, we've had to evolve in how we're addressing some of these changes in society and how teens connect and how they find friends and how they learn and how they receive information. And so absolutely. And, social isolation for a lot of people and can be the most painful experience. And so like this idea of grounding, right? Like for some kids that might be okay. Other kids, that social isolation is so damaging that it actually reinforces more mental health concerns.
And so when you say grounding, just to differentiate from what we were talking about before, grounding about, putting your feet in grass and feeling, one with the earth and grounding energetically there, you're speaking of like the punitive grounding of you can't go out with your friends, you can't be on your phone, you can't be on social media.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it goes back to knowing your kids and what are you after, right? Like, do you want them to be socially isolated so that they can ponder what they think or feel? Will they do that? Are they the kind of kid that does that? Or are they the one that can't be, because the more isolated and the more disconnected they feel from their friends may reinforce more feelings of distance and separation and low self-esteem and all these other things that happen. So there's no like one way, right? With parenting or even working with teens. So yeah, I mean, so many my kids, they're connecting with people online. And again, we have boundaries around that. They're not, whether we're going to talk to anybody all over the world, probably not. That in my house, that's something we don't do.
Right.
In somebody else's house, they may. Different families, different rules. That's also something we say a lot around my house. I mean, I say that to adolescent clients. This is so unfair. Different families, different rules. And sometimes we have to accept those things to be able to grow through them and persevere. But yeah, these online social relationships, I cannot relate to that personally because that's not my generation I grew up in. That was not my sense of connection and emotional intimacy with my peers and things. But for these younger kids, that they feel very connected. Yeah. And so that's an opportunity for us to like really validate that experience. It's different than mine. We don't understand it. But what do you like about that friendship? What do you trust about that? What is it? How does it help you be better? How do you invest in that relationship? How do they invest in you? How do you share? How do you, gauge that person respects you? How do you gauge that you're not being taken advantage of? There's so many things we can teach through those online friendships that teens have.
Yeah.
It's also really scary.
Absolutely. Yes. The whole online thing is really scary. And I want to touch on something you mentioned about acceptance. And especially now with, again, social media and YouTube and YouTubers and, our kids, I'll just speak for my boys, are always watching like the latest YouTube and what they're doing. And comparison is a huge thing. In adolescence, obviously, like, our bodies are changing rapidly, our self-image is shifting rapidly. What practical strategies are there, if there are any, to teach teens how to navigate like the body changes and to build healthy body confidence
Mm-hmm.
when they may be online all the time and they're seeing like these super fit individuals or super rich individuals
Sure.
who are, their age and doing all these crazy things. How do you help that teen like build that healthy body confidence, especially, and you hit the nail on the head with girls is a whole nother realm of issues. But I was hoping you could tap into that as well, especially when we're talking about healthy body image.
One of the first things I would say is we help our kids learn their value and what feedback they get from us. So are we speaking to their strengths and their qualities as a person, or are we saying, you lost weight, you look great? You're looking really strong lands a whole lot different than your muscles are looking ripped. So some of the language we use, I think, is really
Yeah.
important. But what are we speaking to when we're reflecting to our kids what we see in them? Are we seeing attributes and skills and qualities and potential and character? Or are we placing a lot of emphasis on their outward appearance? While also knowing that our outward appearance is part of how we do get our esteem and our confidence and our sense of, belonging, all these things. So valuing health and well-being and being strong and having a working body. It's not just about what you see on YouTube, right? Those YouTubers have a whole person inside of it. They have a soul. And so helping them even identify like, okay, she's a pretty girl, but what else is she? So challenging and having boys, that's something we speak to for sure. And they are uncomfortable. But so I think that's one of the first kind of interventions as parents. What are we building, right? What are we creating? What's the feedback we're giving them? But then also, if you've got a son that loves working out and he feels strong, great. It's about setting goals. It's about how do you still do that when you don't wanna, right? Like I don't always wanna go to the gym, but if I value my body being strong, I'm probably going to be more likely to go. So I don't know. Did I answer that question?
I think there's so many different ways to answer that question, and
Yeah.
being a parent, it's so interesting the words you chose there, like in the way, at least the way that I took it is like, what are we trying to build?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that is our job, as scary and as awesome as it is at the same time. That's our job as parents, is to build this person, this human being into the best possible version that they can be before they're set off on their own. Like it's our job to give them the tools and give them the belief structure and give them the confidence to be right. In order for me to gain acceptance or maybe love from you, I need to be thin or skinny, right? And God, I mean, that's, and thinking how that could affect a 12-year-old girl or a 14-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
And now the lens that they are looking through everything in terms of acceptance is I need to look like this. And I mean, it's really eye opening, I think, especially for men who have daughters, which my oldest for my first marriage is a girl. So my firstborn is a girl,
Okay.
my daughter. And in knowing like, some of the things I may have said in the past, not meaning them to be demeaning, could have been 100% demeaning. Right. And we have to be so careful in choosing our words. But again, that comes with that evolution of parenting now. Like you have to be aware, and there really isn't any excuse to not think about these things, like not have these conversations with other adults or other parents and counseling, and I think that is, and maybe this is, I would imagine there's a thing like counseling for parents that help parents like with these types of thought processes, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take a whole lot of reflection as an adult and as a parent on our own past to think, oh, how did that affect me?
Yeah.
a little bit of self-awareness can go a really long way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I love like this idea of like, yes, we're building this person, but even having to kind of expand our own thinking about what are we sending out there? Do we just want someone to go out there and make a bunch of money, or do we want them to go have a really good quality of life and be a good human, right? All those, or be a person of integrity and dependable or fun loving, all these other things that go beyond, well, mom, I just want to be a rich YouTuber. But why?
Right.
Like, so building this sense that they can go do whatever they want to do, but have a sense of pride and ownership and accomplishment and esteem and whatever path they choose.
Yeah. And, the more that we are having this conversation, the more that I can't help to think of the awesome, again, responsibility we have as parents, whether you're doing this in tandem or solo as a parent, the amazing responsibility that we have to influence our children to, again, like you said, become like a constructive person that's going to help society, move society forward, or, give them, again, the tools to enjoy life, like to have a good life. Something that we tell our kids all the time is just be a good human. Like simply be a good human. And what does that mean? Like, this goes into like the golden rule not being the golden rule anymore. I don't know if it's like now it's phrased like the platinum rule, or whatever. It's not about treating people how you want to be treated. It's treating people how they want to be treated. And I think that's so important for us as adults to look through that lens when we're dealing with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, how do they want to be treated?
Still being the adult in the room, still having to have rules and boundaries and expectations. How do they want to be treated? Yeah. And I think that goes into how we connect with our kids, right? Do you have a kid that wants to be talked at all the time or listened? Or do you want a kid that wants to do a craft together? Or, it's my way of connecting with my kids isn't always the way that they want to connect with me, So a little reflection goes a really long way. But it's quite a responsibility and it's fun. I don't know about you, but like, I think it's fun, but there's a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of pressure to get it right. I don't know. I feel like if teens grow up with a sense of nobody gave up on them, or somebody did not give up on them and believed in them that they could persevere through anything and they were capable of anything. I mean, you know about this firsthand. Like, if we raise kids that feel that no matter what they face, if their friends reject them, if they get their heart broke, if they didn't get the job they wanted, that they are still valuable and worthy and we're not going anywhere as parents. I mean, how could anybody not feel like they didn't do a good job being a parent, that truly unconditional love and support. And even if we don't disagree with their choices, we're going to be disappointed. But I look forward to the day where hopefully I can handle it. If my kids come to me and they're like, Mom, you did this and it was not helpful, or, something that was hard for me, I hope I can handle that later in life, because I feel like if we're not learning, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that. If we're not learning, what are we doing?
Yeah.
For sure. Now I have I have my own answer for this question that I just picked up through your words. How, as parents, educators, communities, work to support a teen through their transition from like adolescence to young adulthood, particularly around identity, independence, decision making? Like, what I just picked up on what you just said is just unconditional love. But what are some other things that we can do to support that that teen going through that difficult time of adolescence, teenager to young adult.
Yeah. The emerging adult.
Yes.
That's what I call that
The
emerging adult.
emerging adult. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of depends on what path people take too. If somebody graduates high school and they kind of have that traditional maybe path of they go to college, they're getting more responsibility, they're getting more freedom. And so using what they're working with, how can we still be connected to what's going on there, but how can we support you with making good choices around your finances or what career path you're choosing? But then if you've got I'm just thinking like a teenager that maybe is becoming an adult, but chooses to stay at home longer and chooses to not go to college and chooses to have a job. Okay, how are we also investing in those life skills? More freedom, more responsibility. What do you need my help with? What do you want my help with? Here's something I'm good at. Do you want this information? Here's something you're good at, teenager. You could really do well in this area. So I think that open communication about some of those just regular things too, I think like financial planning, right? Like we don't come out knowing how to do that. We got to learn that.
Yeah.
And so modeling that and talking to kids about that, whether they live at home and they only work 15 hours a week or they're at college and they're living off student loans, it's still a conversation about, hey, where do you see yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What questions do you have? If I don't have the answer, how can I get you, information so that you can meet your goals? And so I think being a resource is a really important part of that life stage. Being a resource, not just hands off, figure it out. I personally don't believe that's the most helpful because, again, kids need opportunities to learn. They need information, and they don't have that if somebody doesn't give it to them, unless they're really self-driven and they go find all that themselves. So I think just being a resource and being willing to problem solve if that's what they want your help with is a really good piece to that transitional period between adolescence and fully independent adult, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. That what you said about what do you want my help with is so important, but even more important, I think, is what do you not want my help with? Because I think as parents, that's what we do. Like, we're going to interject ourselves into your life to help you because that's what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But I think that is so important for us to also ask that other question of, well, what don't you want my help with? Like, what do you want to figure out on your own? What space do you need? Instead of being that helicopter pilot, I guess is the term, or helicopter parent,
right,
that hovers over and swoops in whenever there's maybe indecision or uncomfortability. We want to protect our kids, even though they're 18 years old. I guess they also need to make their own mistakes so they can figure out how to respond to them and grow from those situations.
Absolutely, because we know that is a really valuable experience. Knowing that you can make a mistake, knowing that you can hit a really hard time and figure it out.
Yes. FIO, that's what I call that.
Yes.
FIO.
FIO. And we don't FIO if mom and dad come in and keep solving our problems and don't let us FIO, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that is where the seeds of resilience are planted. Mm-hmm. Right? When you are able to figure something out and it works, you're able to figure out something and you're able to overcome the adversity or the challenge that you had in that point in time. That is such an enormous tool for later on in life when you hit adversity again.
Yeah.
You can look back on the time that you were able to overcome before, where you're able to come back from that setback before. And that's how I think that you build resilience to adversity.
Absolutely.
And it's such a disservice to our kids when we always are figuring it out for them.
Yeah. It's oftentimes one of the first few conversations, in a therapeutic setting that happens. When have you felt like this before? When did you experience depression? When did you experience anxiety? When, and they can think about that. And then it's like, what did you do? And, how did you respond then? They're like, well, I did this and I read this and I tapped into this. And right. So maybe we start there with what you already know about yourself, that you already are resilient. And so how can we bring that into the forefront of right now? What would be resilient right now? What would give you hope right now?
So important and so overlooked. I think that when we are in those situations where we need to push back against life or whatever else is trying to hold us down, or whatever adversity we're facing, we are writing, when we are overcoming that and we're pushing back and we are figuring it out in that process, we're literally writing the blueprint of how we are able to handle those situations. Mm-hmm. But then for some reason, that blueprint gets rolled up and we pack it away somewhere in our subconscious and we're like, forget about it. And then when adversity and challenges hit again, we're like, what do I do? How do I deal with this? I was like, well, yeah, let's pull that blueprint out. Let's bring that back. Let's unroll. Let's knock the dust off and let's just read the game plan that you used before. And like you said, start there.
It's going to be hard either way, right? Like sometimes we just have to acknowledge like we're doing the hard thing. It's going to be hard. But I can do that. I'm capable of that. And just because something is difficult doesn't mean we avoid it.
Absolutely. Man, Leigh, I feel like I could talk to you for hours on all this stuff, but I know that you are a very busy individual. So I want to kind of wrap this conversation up. There's so many more things that I want to talk to you about, so many other questions I have for you. But what I'd like to do for our listeners and viewers is be able to find out more about you, more about your services.
Okay.
Also, more about life counseling, Lotus of Life Counseling. Where can our listeners and viewers find out more about you and your services and the things that you do and provide?
Yeah. So, of course, the website, lotusoflifecounseling.net, that will land you in a place where there's lots of information, not only about me, but about my team. It's Lotus of Life is a team. I may have started it, but I have been so lucky to bring on an amazing group of all women up to this point. Hopefully that will change. So the website's a good place. Just in general, when people are looking for mental health resources, I always like to mention a site called mentalhealthmatch.com and psychologytoday.com. Both of those are ones that you can filter out through zip code and insurance if you have insurance, or mental health issue you want to address. So some of those basic search websites are good resources. But Lotus of Life is in Westfield, Indiana. That's where our main office is. And then we have what I like to call pop-up shops around greater Indianapolis area. And kind of depending on what people are looking for, whether they're looking for services for teens or themselves or children or couples, the best place to start is just to call or reach out online. We have a contact form and our intake specialist will take it from there. We really try to pair people with the best fit, right? We can serve a lot of people. We each come with all of our providers. We all kind of have a different niche or a different area of specialty or training or extra certification. We try to make a really good fit in our practice. But if we find, hey, we don't have someone, we want you to have the best care, we will refer out, because we can serve a lot of people, but we can't serve everyone. So I like to support the other practices in the community too. That's important for me. And we do. We have some good relationships with some neighboring practices. So if it's something Lotus of Life can't provide, then that social worker in me is committed to, if I can't do it or I don't know the answer, I'm going to go figure out a resource for you. And so we do that at Lotus of Life Counseling.
And your programs and services, you also offer a virtual option, correct?
We do. So all of our providers offer virtual and in-person sessions. We have some providers that only work in our Westfield office, but then we have other offices in Sheridan, Indiana, Fortville, Indiana, and then on the east side of Indy at 21st and German Church Road. And everybody does virtual. Everybody does in-person to some extent. We take most commercial insurances. We also take Indiana Medicaid, all forms of that. And that's just in alignment with kind of the value I had growing this practice, making it accessible and affordable. There's nothing worse than needing help and not being able to find somebody because you can't afford it, or they have a wait list that's 6 months long, or, so
Right.
we try really hard to do that. I like to believe that we're all trying to do that as mental health providers to some extent.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I want to say thank you for what you do, and thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So we're going to wrap things up there, and just kind of want to remind our audience to stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment or two. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time, stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.